Good morning. My name is Vincent Nunes. I'm part of the Creative Solutions for the Global Good at University High School in San Mateo, California. As students in this class, we get the chance to meet and hear from amazing people from all over the world whose lives are dedicated to innovative service to their communities. To introduce today's speaker, I'm going to hand it over to my classmate, Carson Catano.
Passionate about giving voice to those without one, Nate Salpeter co-founded the animal sanctuary Sweet Farm with his wife, Anna Sweet, out of recognition that industrialized farming has had a profoundly negative impact on the lives of billions of animals, as well as on plant-based agriculture. A Ph.D. engineer working in the nuclear industry, Nate brings his analytical mindset to the animal welfare space, where he, his wife, and an incredible team have built Sweet Farm to be more than only a farm animal rescue, but also to be a place of education, inspiration, and innovation through animal rescue, plant-based agriculture, and technology initiatives to scale change in the food system globally. Nate and Anna are active advisors and investors in the alternative protein agriculture, technology, and sustainability sectors. This work has culminated in the SNØCAP Venture Fund, which invests in early-stage, profit-oriented platforms that directly and indirectly solve the climate crisis. Nate Salpeter, co-founder and executive director of Sweet Farm Foundation, will share concepts of interconnections between food, action, and investment. In his presentation, we learn how the team at Sweet Farm is pushing the boundaries of what it means to be a sanctuary, and how impact can be made locally and globally through targeted efforts that leverage education, inspiration, and innovation. Mr. Salpeter, welcome to Serra.
Thank you so much, Carson. And thank you all for joining today. So I'm Nate Salpeter. I grew up in Florida, moved to Seattle, went to California. I'm now in New York, so hitting pretty much all of the corners. I'm on my hopefully last move, but really excited to continue to engage with this group. So as I go through, we're going to go through a lot of stuff very quickly because there's a lot to cover. So jot down those questions. Nothing is off the table. There's no such thing as a bad question. There's no such thing as too hard a question. I love all of that. So with that, what we're going to do is get going here. So this is the current population of the planet as of 10:05 this morning Eastern time. So just about 30 minutes ago. And by 2050, we're looking to have another almost 2 billion people on this planet. So that is a lot of extra mouths to feed. And the systems that connect all of these things are incredibly complex. So we're going to talk about two things very quickly: Sweet Farm and SNØCAP. One, Sweet Farm is a 501c3 nonprofit founded back in 2015. SNØCAP is the venture fund that spun out of a lot of the work that we do at Sweet Farm, and that just launched officially last year, and we've made our first couple of investments, and we'll talk about those as well. So grew up in Florida, like I said, slew of universities, but what I do for a living is computational fluid dynamics and experimental test design for the nuclear industry. So some of y'all might know this gentleman here, Bill Gates. He has a Netflix series called Inside Bill's Brain. If you watch that one, they talk a lot about the company that I started my career at. I still advise this company to this day. And some of my work actually showed up in that Netflix series. But what you see on the right is using innovations in the supercompute space to evolve our understanding and do more and more iterations throughout the design process quickly. So it's all about that quick turnaround and how can we do more with less. That's what I've basically built my career around, and trying to find those efficiency gains to move us forward. My route to get here, not a standard roundabout. It's not like I just said, okay, I want to do this, be a startup advisor, do a nonprofit, nuclear, and be a venture capitalist. The route to get there actually is something more like this. And I think the value in mentioning this is simply exploring interests, outside interests when you don't necessarily know how they all meet up is extremely valuable in uncovering innovation and finding sparks and connections and more specifically nuances in different systems along the way. So we already kind of covered Sweet Farm at a high level, but it does engage in one part animal welfare, another part regenerative agriculture, and the third part is the technology incubation. So we already talked about 2 billion extra mouths to feed by 2050. Just for context, that could line the equator twice just with the new mouths we have to feed. So we have to find better, more innovative solutions to get us to a place where we can actually handle this kind of population growth. So what you see here is those same three pillars: animals, agriculture, and technology, indicated through images from the farm. Now, this was the California farm, which we really set up to be this pioneering climate solutions lab. We work across sectors, not just in the food and ag space, but also materials, waste, energy. It's really a much broader project than just the food system, because those are inherently linked across different sectors. So we did move across the country early in May of 2022. We went from a 20-acre farm in California to a 50-acre farm in upstate New York. And we're going to go through a few of the companies, but the reason we moved is climate change, right? So this was a photo in 2020. I was sitting at my desk and a large mushroom cloud came up over the hill. This was the CZU fire. It was 85,000 acres roughly, and we were within the evacuation zone. So very stressful. The drought contributed to a decision to move as well. There's just a day later what it looked like on the farm. No filter Monday here. So yeah, pretty rough. And now we're in a much better situation to actually accelerate these companies. So now being in upstate New York, we have a combination of more barn space. We have 3.5-acre test vineyard. We do have a bunch of pilot plots within the property itself. There's a view from the other side. So access to a 4.3 trillion gallon lake to be able to support the companies that we're actually piloting their projects on. So one of those companies that we worked with early on, we did the first 2 years of the field trials, is a company called Interplant. They are actually teaching plants to talk to farmers so they can reduce chemical use, pesticide use, herbicides. Very early company and exciting, but promising in how how can we improve waterways? How can we improve the livelihood of farmers? How can we reduce chemical exposure to the people who are actually growing our food? And how can we do that with sort of these cornerstone technologies? So Interplant is developing just that. And since we started working with them, John Deere, who you've all seen the green tractors out there, is now their lead investor, and they just got their USDA approval for their first publicly distributed plant. So very exciting progress on that front. Outside of the direct food, alternative protein space, but very promising for how do we scale across billions of acres. It's also not just plants, right? So what about how meat is produced? So we actually have a pig at Sweet Farm called named Dawn. She was the pig that's right behind me in my shot here, but here's a little picture in the lower left of her as a piglet. So she actually donated the initial cells for this company called Mission Barns, which is growing pork fat without a single animal. So they're actually using bioreactors. And when you think about bacon and what makes bacon taste like bacon, it's the fat. It's the mouthfeel, it's the nose, the smell. So they are doing just that. So here's here's an opportunity to take a small input and have an outsized impact. So really excited about Mission Barns and where they are heading. They're getting very close to their FDA approval as well. So probably this will be the first company that anyone ever tries. Rushton had the pleasure of trying some of their products last year, and he can tell you more later about how that experience was as well. Dairy. We also are involved in the alternative dairy space. So this is a company called Turtle Tree out of Singapore. We wrote the first check in this company years ago. And just recently, they got their approval for their first product, which is a lactoferrin. So lactoferrin is a molecule in dairy that actually contains an iron molecule, and it helps with nutrient absorption, specifically within infants. So in the world of infant nutrition, very critical path, as opposed to it normally taking about 10,000 liters of dairy to produce a kilogram of lactoferrin. Here's an example of how do we create a food system that is more efficient and still allows humans to progress while also reducing the burden on animals in the food system. So I'm going to kind of fast forward here because I want to make sure we get to SNØCAP as well. But as you can imagine, we've done a number of projects across companies. There's many more. We have about 15 in our partnership lineup. Collectively to this date, they've raised about $600 million since the time that we started working with them. And over the years, that has led us to really suss out patterns. It's all about pattern matching. Like, why do these companies that we keep working with continually rise to the top? And the through line across all of them, across all sectors, is these companies make up what we refer to as the platform layer of climate technology. So we don't mean platform like Steam. If you buy video games, this is like a platform to buy video games or something like that. No, we mean like fundamental molecules, proteins, processes, things that exist very far up in a supply chain, and so far up in the supply chain that they can operate across not just an individual sector, but across multiple sectors. So over the years, working with these companies, we kept seeing this success rate of these kind of companies, and we decided to spin up an actual venture fund around it. So that was the genesis of SNØCAP, and this is just kind of a reframing. Essentially, we are a very small early stage investment fund. We are targeting 15 to 18 investments over the course of the next 5 years or so across sectors, and really it's at that high up portion of the supply chain. Now, in terms of the fund itself, we believe that consumer behavior change is slow. It's an important and essential part of this puzzle, and so is regulation. However, from an investment standpoint, and this is where it's nice being able to wear a Sweet Farm hat or a SNØCAP hat, is Sweet Farm can operate with the ability to look at the behavior change and look at pushing on regulation and that side of things. And then from the investment side, we can view it purely from a capitalistic standpoint of how can we make something that's better for the environment, better for the planet, and also the driver for it is not change and behavior change and regulation. It's instead price, for instance. So we look for businesses that hit those marks and can integrate in very quickly into these value chains. So to the team, it's almost entirely engineers. You see a fair number of logos you probably recognize, NASA and Google and Zillow and Disney. The team is built with a lot of technical know-how, but we also have a very extensive team in addition to the three of us. So a Ph.D. from Yale in green chemistry. We have civil engineers. We have waste experts. But we also have finance. So there's a wide range of skill sets that come into play in terms of how do you see these interconnected pieces. And the team that we have, we also really encourage all of them to do more than one thing. We really discourage people being siloed into one specific key area, and that it's because of that interconnectedness with everything from networks to lived experiences that helps us pull out those nuances and see the connections that were really that are often missed by by a lot of individuals. So we'll skip over a little bit of more details on SNØCAP, but we do actual projects with different companies across those sectors, everything from the plastic waste space to carbon sequestration to testing out new ways of fertilizing plants in a way that is more environmentally beneficial and conscientious as well. So it's really about providing that value back into those companies. And we do that through ourselves as individuals, but also connecting it in with this ecosystem at Sweet Farm. So I will skip over these because I want to share the two investments that we've done to date. I'll do this very quickly, and I want to open it up to questions as well. To date, we've done our first investment was in a company called Reviv Bio. So they are in the microfluidic space. So if you think about doing an experiment, you're in chemistry class and you're mixing a test tube, pouring some things in another one. Imagine doing that about 1 billion times per hour. That is what this company is able to do. They do it on a tiny little chip. I've been working in the microfluidics space since 2005. I did my first internship ever in this space, and I was doing one experiment on a single chip. Now, with this company's technology, we can do about 1 billion per hour. So you can imagine if you are training AI models to solution search very quickly, those training models are only as good as the data that is being fed to them. So if you can both do the experiments and suss out the relevant information and trends, then you have a really good opportunity to find solutions to some of the biggest challenges very quickly. So this company is focused on enzymes. So it's everything from polyfluoroalkyls, so PFAS, all the way out to more advanced, super narrow spectrum like pesticides, right? We don't want broad spectrum things that just blanket kill everything in the field. If there's like the Mediterranean fruit fly, for instance, you want something very narrow just to take care of that. You need technologies like this to be able to find those solutions quickly and reliably to help avoid those full sweeping kind of less ideal solutions to the space, like in agriculture, for instance. The second investment we've already made is in a company called Sparksol. They produce films that reflect any wavelength of light that you want. They can actually tune it according to the desire, and they produce this film only with cellulose. So no fossil fuels, no metals. To date, this kind of film has only been able to be produced using metals and fossil fuels. And when you think about the technology, well, it uses the same physics as, say, a hummingbird, with the shimmery wings, or a butterfly with that iridescent color. They're not going out and mining, strip mining the earth to find the metals to make their wings beautiful. No, that's still cellulose. So this company, Sparksol, has actually figured out how to do that, and they can produce it at scale. We invested very, very early on, and shortly after our investment, L'Oreal from the cosmetics industry came in. LVMH is also intrigued by it, but the applications are broad. So Europe is banning microplastics, in consumer goods. So glitter and eyeshadow, that's all going by the wayside for obvious reasons. But the applications can be, hey, tune this thing to the infrared wavelength. So you can use it as coatings on solar panels to boost efficiencies, or the same thing on the side of housing to reflect heat away from your home during a hot summer day. The range of applications is huge, and the best part about it is ultimately when these particles get back into the environment, they degrade. So love these kind of technologies. They recently won a top prize by the Biomimicry Institute for their work by mimicking nature. So they found a way to see the world through a different lens, and then set out to make that change using billions of years of evolution as their guiding point. So I'm going to stop there because but the very last thing I'll leave you with is I spent years and years in college and high school and whatnot, and the most important thing that I learned through that process was really how to unlearn the things that I learned and then relearn and then continue to do that process over and over and over. And it's through that you really start to see unique connections in the world around us. So with that, would love to answer any questions because there probably are some.
Absolutely. Nate, thank you so much for the presentation. This is part of the Serra Global Speaker Series. The Serra Global Speaker Series is part of our focus on innovation at Junipero Serra High School. And with that, we have a class called Creative Solutions for the Global Good, which is the host for today's meeting. I'm going to open this up so that we can have our students ask questions. Students, let me know by raising your hand in Zoom or waving fervently at me in the room that you have one ready to go, and we'll move over to you. Let's start with Carson Catano. Carson, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
I was wondering if you think that your work at the farm and the work that you guys are doing with sustainability is more or less impactful, or has more potential to impact the world than your investments via the SNØCAP Venture Fund.
Yeah, so I think they work hand in hand. So there's different. I'll bucket this in two different ways. So even within the investment space, you have something that's known as impact investing. And oftentimes, impact investors are looking to send a signal to a market. They want to send a signal that, hey, this is an important area, this is an area of interest, and there are people willing to put money on the line to back these technologies. I've been impact investing for years. I wrote some first checks in companies that I said, this might drop to zero, and that's okay. I don't do that through the fund at this point because it is a financial vehicle. But from the investment standpoint, there are certainly a contingent of investors that do that simply to grow conviction within a sector, so that more it sends a signal out to the bigger investors that no, this is important. We should be backing this, even if it is a much longer play. The farm, so Sweet Farm, what's nice about that work is not all technologies are necessarily venture backable, but they are necessary to the world. There are a lot of types of businesses that are extremely great businesses that need to exist and should exist, but they may generate $1 million a year or $500,000 a year or $10 million a year, and that's it. And those are great and important businesses, but they might not fit within the mold of venture capital. So having mechanisms where you can engage with individuals across, with entrepreneurs across both is extremely important. And then also consumer education, right? If you have a very forward-looking technology that's on the horizon, being able to have those in-person or nuanced discussions that don't necessarily fit into a 255 character tweet. Those are some of the most important engagements that that we can have through something like the nonprofit. And it's all about creating additional advocates and people who understand these things and then can share that also with their own personal network. So it's a short answer. We could talk about that all day. Great question.
All right. So for the next question, Patty, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, I was wondering, has investing always been part of your plan since you started Sweet Farms, or was it something you more developed along the way that you thought could also be helpful?
Yeah, great question. It was not part of the initial plan. Initially, we started as, hey, we're just going to rescue some animals and grow some food and for the local community. We still do both of those things to this date. We donate an incredible amount locally. It was it naturally evolved as researchers and entrepreneurs started reaching out saying, hey, word on the street is y'all are thinking about things differently, and you also have some unique backgrounds and interests. We'd love to do a project together. So we said, is this good for the world? Yes, no. If yes, we'll dive in head first on this. That started happening more and more and more. So we started to have to diligence our own time. Time is an investment. And through that process, we realized some of these companies are interesting investment opportunities as well. So that's kind of how we ended up getting into it, but not part of the original plan.
All right. So one of the things about this group of students is that they are all working on individual projects that are designed to improve communities in some way. Can you talk a little bit about the experience of telling your story so as to generate more support for what you do, both in the animal sanctuary and also in your venture capital?
Yeah, absolutely. So, differentiation is super important. I for one am not I'm not a big self promoter. I don't do a lot of that. And there's nothing wrong with different approaches. With Sweet Farm, we took a different approach than most. We decided early on we wanted to set out and build a track record, and then later be able to sell the track record along with the vision. So we kind of inverted. A lot of times it's go out, sell the vision right out the gate, go big with it, raise a bunch of money, and then do the thing. That's just wasn't our style. We decided, nope, let's do slow growth, which is a whole different approach to building businesses. I love the tortoise, and the hare kind of approach, and we're definitely the tortoise on that front. But being able to pivot and then still, when the time is right, be able to get out there and promote the work that you do, extremely important. So what we are working on right now is we actually have a technology report that covers a lot of our partnerships that we've executed on over the years. And that's one of our biggest, it's going to become one of our biggest methods for generating things like corporate sustainability program support across the board. So, if you don't put yourself out there, no one will know about the work that you're doing. So now that we've put in the years of work, now it's about getting out there and doing it. To this day, we still do radio interviews and news interviews. I think there's going to be a climate tech NPR segment, or at least local public radio segment here coming up soon that will be joining. So we get out there and share our learnings, and we do that from the perspective of complementing the work of others. We're not competing. It's all about a bigger tent and how can we do more together. We very, very much take a karma-based approach of happy to help anyone else who's just out there doing great things, and historically that's always come back to in very positive ways. So yeah.
Wonderful. So as we're reaching the end of our time frame, I'd like to thank you for the presentation, but also thank the students of the Creative Solutions for the Global Good class, all of you out there who support what we do at Serra High School. And I'd like to pass to the closing on to one of our students, Ian Ting. So Ian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Salpeter, for your presentation and for taking the time to talk with us. Representing Serra High School, Notre Dame High School, and Mercy High School, the students of the Creative Solutions for the Global Good class also thank all who have watched this video. Next month, we'll have the second speaker in our series, Mr. Nicholas Dahl of Sweden, who will be telling us about his company's work with high-tech sales to reduce the need of shipping for fuel. So we hope you can join us. Thank you.